Today I'm going to show you the easiest way I know of writing responsive text. I think we've all been in the situation like this where it looks great on desktop, but you move to a different screen size and stuff starts just popping out everywhere. I will include the code via GitHub in the description of this video, so if you want to code along, go ahead and download that. Super quick overview of what we'll be working on. It's this section right here. So I just basically have one section, and within that are two divs, and each of those divs contains the same image with some text absolutely positioned on top of the image. The section is going to be 80% with a max width of 850 pixels, and the image is going to take up 100% of that entire section. The H1 is 64 pixels for font size, and the paragraphs are 32 pixels in font size. And what is actually causing the responsiveness problem is the width set on the P element. It's set statically to 24M. So whenever we go to a smaller screen, that is going to start overflowing outside of that picture. And our goal is to keep that text within the picture no matter what the screen size is. So we want it to look like this, even when somebody is on mobile. And that can be accomplished without even adding hardly any media queries. So with that foundation laid, let's go ahead and get started. Now this next part might be a little bit confusing, but just hang in there and rewatch it a couple times if you have to, because it will just make your life way easier going forward if you can get this to click. Instead of using hard pixels, we're going to set our font size based on the viewport width. And we're actually going to set that value on the section element, and then all of the children elements within the section element will use EMs for their values. Step one is to find the maximum width your container is going to be in pixels. So if the max width of my section element is 850 pixels and it's 80%, to find the maximum width, I just need to add 20% of 850 pixels to itself. So if I do 850 times 1.2, that gives me 1020 pixels. So now I'm going to come back over to this tool, and I'll leave the link in the description, put in 1020, and then size in pixels, I'm going to put in 10. And then I'm going to click calculate, and it's going to give me this value. And so what this means is if I apply this value to a parent element, then all of its children elements will have a value of 10 pixels for one EM. So one EM will equal 10 pixels. And I'll show you this in action to make it a little bit more clear. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this value. And so this is the parent element right here, section, because all of the children are inside that. Let's go back and just take a look. See, there's section, and it has the H1 and all the div with the other elements inside that. So in the section selector, I'm going to say font size, and then I'm going to paste in that element or that value that the estimator gave me, and I'm going to save it. So now what that means is one EM for any children elements will be 10 pixels. So instead of a hard value right here for the H1, I'm going to change this to 0.4 EM. So that's going to be 64 pixels when the screen is 1020 pixels wide. And that will scale down nicely as well. Let me show you. My viewport is 1020 pixels, and you can see that the H1 tag looks proportionate, and now it is going to scale down as my screen gets smaller. Look at that. So I still feel like this part is probably extremely confusing. So maybe a simpler example would have been if your section is going to have a max width of 1920 pixels, which would be really common. So if that was the case, you would just come into that estimator and you would just put in 1920 and then 10 and calculate, and then that is the value that you would paste in there. I probably chose kind of a funky setup for this tutorial, but hopefully that makes it a little bit more clear. So next we just need to fix the size on these P elements. So let's go back into VS Code. And here is the P element. So I'm just going to change this to 3.2 EM. And let's see how that worked out. Okay, so it looks like that has solved a lot of our problems, but I will show you that not all of our problems are solved. This is scaling incredibly well down, but if we go past our 1020 pixels, we're going to see that as the screen expands, the font size keeps expanding too. And that is because our font size is set on the view width, but we have a maximum size on our container. So while our container isn't getting any bigger, our font size is going to continue to increase. So this is where we're going to add a media query. And we want to apply it to the section. So normally I would put this at the bottom of the code, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to say that, or I'm going to put it right by the other. So I'm going to do it on a min width of 1021 pixels. So there's my media query. So this is only going to apply when the viewport is greater than 1020 pixels. So I'm just going to add the section selector in here. And then I'm going to say the font size is 10 pixels. So now we can scale all the way down and we can scale up. And as you can see, we get a consistent font size no matter what screen size we're using. I did notice one thing. As I scroll down, I'm seeing the screen still pop up towards the edges. So I'm going to see if I can fix that. I think if I change the width based on EMs, of the container instead of percentage, that should solve the problem. So I'm going to go ahead and try that. So on my section container, instead of 80%, let's change this to EM and see how that works. And there we go. We have a perfectly responsive page. So thanks so much for watching. If you found it helpful, please like, please subscribe. Please leave a comment. That really helps me, and I'll keep making more videos. If this is totally wrong, please go ahead and correct me. If you know a better way, I would love to hear all about it. If you need some help, I will leave my contact information in the description of this video, but you can go to martinclayson.net and fill out a form. Otherwise, you can email me at martin@martinclayson.net. Thanks again for watching, and have a great day.